Imagine this: 3 nuclear powers, 1 target, and time is running out. The year is 2026. The world is no longer talking about whether a major conflict will happen, but when. China is accelerating its nuclear modernization at a pace never recorded in history. Russia still holds the largest arsenal on the planet. And North Korea? They have just launched their latest generation intercontinental ballistic missile. The United States stands surrounded in the middle of this. The question is no longer about strength, but about readiness. Welcome to the Military Show. Today, we break down all the data. Let's start with the numbers, because numbers don't lie. According to the IISS Military Balance 2026 data, Russia still dominates with an estimated 5,580 nuclear warheads, the largest in the world. The United States follows with 5,044 warheads, most of them on active alert. But China? This is what's keeping the Pentagon up at night. The Jane Strategic Weapons Assessment 2026 report confirms that China now has more than 500 operational warheads, a sharp increase from 350 in 2023. The DF-41, DF-5B, and now the newly announced DF-51 programs give Beijing the capability to strike the U.S. mainland in less than 30 minutes. And North Korea? Don't underestimate them. The Jane Strategic Weapons Assessment 2026 report confirms that China now has more than 500 operational warheads, a sharp increase from 350 in 2023. The DF-41, DF-5B, and now the newly announced DF-51 programs give Beijing the capability to strike the U.S. mainland in less than 30 minutes. And North Korea? Don't underestimate them. Pyongyang is estimated to already possess 50 to 90 deployable warheads. And more concerning, they continue to miniaturize their warheads to fit on ICBMs. According to the 38 North Intelligence Brief February 2026, North Korea is now believed capable of delivering a thermonuclear warhead to the west coast of the United States. 3 directions, 3 threats, 1 America. America is not powerless. Far from it. The U.S. nuclear defense doctrine rests on 3 pillars known as the Nuclear Triad: land, air, and sea. And all 3 are undergoing major upgrades in 2026. On land, the LGM-35A Sentinel, successor to the Minuteman III, is beginning its initial deployment phase. This missile is designed to penetrate next-generation air defense systems with hypersonic maneuvering in its terminal phase. At sea, 14 Ohio-class submarines remain the backbone of nuclear deterrence. Each submarine can carry up to 24 Trident II D5 missiles, each with multiple warheads that can be directed at different targets simultaneously. According to the Naval News Strategic Brief 2026, a single Ohio submarine alone has destructive power exceeding North Korea's entire nuclear arsenal. And in the air, this is the newest weapon that Beijing fears the most. B-21 Raider, 6th-generation stealth bomber, undetectable by radar, capable of carrying nuclear and conventional weapons. As of January 2026, the United States has operated at least 12 units in active condition, with total procurement planned to exceed 100 units. America is strong. But strength is not always synonymous with security. A firm, energetic question being debated by analysts in 2026. Are China, Russia, and North Korea moving in a coordinated manner? There is indeed no direct evidence yet, but the pattern of their movements is very difficult to call a coincidence. Every time the United States increases pressure in the South China Sea, Russia conducts large exercises in the Arctic. Every time NATO carries out maneuvers in Eastern Europe, North Korea launches missiles. This cycle repeats and accelerates. IISS Strategic Comments, March 2026, refers to this phenomenon as strategic coupling without formal alliance, strategic linkage without a formal alliance. They do not need to sign treaties. By simply worsening situations simultaneously, they force the United States to divide its attention and resources across 3 fronts at once. And that is Washington's greatest weakness right now. The U.S. defense budget for 2026 has indeed reached a record $886 billion, a figure that sounds gigantic. But when it must be divided across 3 theaters of operation, each demanding full attention, that number suddenly feels much smaller. Amid all this tension, South Korea stands on the front line. Seoul is only 50 kilometers from the DMZ. In a conventional conflict scenario, the city of 10 million people could be hit by North Korean artillery within minutes without a single ballistic missile being launched. But South Korea is no longer a passive proxy waiting for American protection. As of 2026, the ROK Air Force has operated 40 units of the KF-21 Boromei, a domestically produced 4.5 generation fighter jet capable of competing with China's J-16. They have also integrated the LSAM, long-range surface-to-air missile system, as a long-range air defense layer to complement PAC-3 and THAAD. The increasingly intensive Ulchi Freedom Shield joint exercises show that the U.S.-South Korea alliance is not just a formality on paper. According to Jane's Defense Weekly Asia Pacific 2026, tactical coordination between these 2 armed forces has now reached its highest level since the Korean War. But there is one variable that continues to haunt Seoul: nuclear sharing. Will the United States really press the nuclear button to defend Seoul if it means Los Angeles could turn to ashes as well? That is a question with no answer on paper. Scientists at the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have set the Doomsday Clock at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest in history. This is not dramatization. It is a serious assessment from physicists and former national security officials. So what are the triggers? Analysts identify 3 most dangerous scenarios. First scenario: miscalculation in the South China Sea. A collision between U.S. and Chinese warships, intentional or not, could trigger uncontrolled escalation. Both sides have use-it-or-lose-it protocols that could activate a nuclear response before there is time for diplomacy. Second scenario: a fatal provocation by North Korea. Kim Jong-un is believed to be growing bolder as his nuclear arsenal expands. A nuclear test in the atmosphere, last conducted by the world in 1980, could force a U.S. military response that pushes the entire region to a boiling point. Third scenario: a NATO-Russia blunder in Eastern Europe. With Russian forces still active in Ukraine and NATO members moving closer to the front line, a misidentified incident could trigger Article 5, and from there is no turning back. So, is the world heading toward destruction? The answer is not that simple. Nuclear deterrence, as it has worked over the past 80 years, remains the main stabilizer. No side truly wants to press that button, because everyone knows there will be no winners in a nuclear war, only varying degrees of loss. But what has changed in 2026 is the margin for error growing increasingly narrow. A more confident China, a more reckless Russia, a more unpredictable North Korea, and the United States having to maintain 3 fronts at once with limited budget and public attention.
this balance is fragile, and that fragility itself is the threat. This is the world we live in 2026. Not war, but not peace either. A balance continuously tested every day by decisions made by leaders sitting thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield. And you, by understanding this data, are already one step ahead of most people.
That is our in-depth analysis of the global nuclear power balance in 2026. If this video has opened a new perspective for you, press like now. Register by pressing subscribe and activate notifications, because next week we will break down one by one China's hypersonic capabilities that are making America's missile defense systems obsolete. Leave your questions or opinions in the comment section. We read everything. See you in the next episode. Stay alert, stay informed.